Donald Trump continues to show clear signs of decline, both mentally and physically. While mainstream outlets often avoid highlighting these issues, the reality is becoming harder to ignore. At the UN General Assembly today, we saw it once again, not only through his angry tirades against world leaders telling them their countries are falling apart, but also in a leaked photo following his teleprompter struggles that raised fresh concerns about his health at 79 years old. We're going to break it all down, but before we dive in, I'd really appreciate it if you could hit the like button, and if you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed. It helps this channel grow and ensures you don't miss future updates. Now, before we get into the details of that leaked image and what it reveals, let's start with the most significant development of the day: President Zelensky's comments on Donald Trump's surprising shift in tone regarding the war in Ukraine.
President Trump has indicated that any sort of peace deal, if it comes, with Ukraine and Russia, would end up with Ukraine losing some territory to Russia. Have you accepted that reality, or what concessions do you think, if you got to a negotiating table, you're willing to make?
First of all, it's important that today we had good conversation with President Trump, and I think he understands for today that we can't just swap territories. It's not fair. It's not real.
So you think his position has changed?
Yes, I think so. And God bless it. I really count on this, on continuation of his attitude to the territorial question and the question of our sovereignty at the end of the days. And I think that it's not about territories, it's about the position of Putin. He will continue. If we will give them more that he really wants, he will continue. So the question how to stop the war is just to stop Putin's ambitions, to change his position to this war.
The strategy we've seen from President Zelensky will be studied for years to come. Everyone knows Donald Trump is often influenced by flattery from strongman leaders, but Zelensky has managed to navigate that dynamic skillfully. Over the past several months, he's been deliberate in staying on Trump's good side, presenting himself carefully and keeping the focus on Ukraine's needs. It's clear he understands how to get into Trump's head, perhaps even pressing on that old connection with Putin. One could imagine Zelensky hinting before their meeting, "So has President Putin called you lately?" Only for Trump to respond with doubt about that relationship. And that subtle pressure seems to have worked because Trump's tone has shifted dramatically. It was surprising to see, but also a welcome change. Hopefully this approach continues, and Trump keeps his attention where it matters most, instead of spending his time complaining about escalators or teleprompters. And that point about the teleprompter matters, because it directly led to the leaked image we're about to discuss. But first, let's hear exactly what Trump had to say.
All I got from the United Nations was an escalator that on the way up stopped right in the middle. If the First Lady wasn't in great shape, she would have fallen. But she's in great shape. We're both in good shape. We both stood. And then a teleprompter that didn't work. These are the two things I got from the United Nations: a bad escalator and a bad teleprompter. Thank you very much. And by the way, it's working now. It just went on. Thank you.
Remember during the 2024 campaign when Donald Trump would constantly say that VP Harris always needed a teleprompter, that Joe Biden needed a teleprompter? I think he alleged that Harris had one during the debate. He was like, "She was so great and she kicked my ass there." There must have been some other reason besides me being a moron, and it's like, no, Donald, you're just an idiot, and you were yelling about dogs. I can't believe the dogs and cats thing worked, but Trump needs his teleprompter. And we can see why in this photo from Getty Images that was released showing how big the type is. 36, it's got to be at least 36-point font and big bold capital letters that Donald Trump needs to be able to read his speeches. And we saw yesterday Donald Trump struggled to get through the word Sedman. It looks like the font size on Donald Trump's speeches has been noticeably increased, and reports suggest he has needed reading glasses for some time, but avoids wearing them in public because he wants to project strength. This is very similar to the way he covers up visible bruises on his hands or layers on makeup to mask other features. Instead of simply wearing glasses like millions of people do every day, he chooses to push through and ends up making himself look less prepared. Whether it's struggling to read from a teleprompter, demanding oversized all-cap scripts, or refusing basic vision support. And let me just say, I understand poor eyesight. I personally deal with extremely strong prescriptions and wear glasses or contacts when needed. There's nothing embarrassing about it. But Trump's refusal to do the same highlights how much of this is about image rather than reality. What we're really seeing is yet another attempt to conceal health concerns while trying to appear tough. But if there's one thing Donald Trump hasn't exactly shown lately, it's toughness. Especially after that sharp takedown by Jimmy Kimmel, which Ari Melber broke down perfectly. That moment really showed the kind of response and strategy that could define how we push forward. Let's take a listen.
Disney has other business and commercial and cultural interests, and they had Marvel stars from Pedro Pascal to Mark Ruffalo to Marissa Tomei speaking out against the suspension. They had consumers, as we showed you last week, canceling Disney Plus, and many other voices, including people who don't agree with Kimmel all the time or don't oppose Trump all the time, sounding the alarm against what was very clearly an admitted, possibly illegal, Donald Trump anti-free speech effort.
When the government begins to interfere, when the government says, I'm not pleased with you, so we're going to orchestrate a way to silence you, it's the wrong direction for our country.
Someone can say something they shouldn't and get taken off the air, but the government cannot apply pressure to force someone to be silenced.
Whoopi Goldberg making that distinction on an ABC program just today, The View. And the distinction she makes is important. I'm going to say this once before I show you a couple more details. We've covered this story. We're a program that has people on from all sides. We've had a lot of Trump officials on this program. We've had a lot of Democrats and people in the opposition on this program. And we've had a heck of a lot of other people, artists, people in that creative community I mentioned on this program. And we've always talked about the need for dialogue. And dialogue can, of course, include a negative public reaction. You say something, and someone else says something. And we go back and forth. And that's the messy process of civic discourse in a democracy with a First Amendment. And I've told you before, if you haven't watched this program, on a more personal, professional note, before I was doing this job, I practiced First Amendment law. These are areas of great debate with a lot of important history of people who have fought and sometimes taken great risks to have the right to uphold First Amendment speech in this country. What is not allowed, separate from public criticism, rebukes back and forth, is the government coming in, as Whoopi Goldberg stated there quite simply, to censor, to abuse government power, the power to tax or to fine, to imprison, to do retaliation or even regulation in the service of censorship. This is fundamental. It's why it's the First Amendment, not the 10th, not the 20th. It's the very First Amendment our founders put in the Constitution. Congress shall pass no law abridging freedom of speech or the press. So here we are. And while people may observe this and say, okay, Ari, but Trump has done a bunch of other things this year in the second term that also some courts have found unlawful, that also have violated parts of the Constitution, that also seem wrong.
If you're not inspired by Jimmy Kimmel getting his show back, then I honestly don't know what will move you. Because this is one of the clearest examples we've seen under this administration of the power of people standing together. For so long, major institutions, whether law firms, universities, or big media networks, often avoided conflict with Donald Trump, choosing to step aside before a fight even began. But now, they're learning that if they won't stand up to him, they'll have to face us, the people. And the people have shown their power through boycotts, cancellations, and by putting real pressure on corporations. That's the kind of strategy that works, because the truth is, the only thing some of these companies really notice is the impact on their bottom line. And you all have proven it. I've seen so many comments from this community saying you canceled Disney Plus, Hulu, or ESPN, not because it was easy, but because it mattered. And I know that's a sacrifice. I know how much people love their shows, their sports, their entertainment. But when you all said, I'm willing to give this up to stand for something bigger, that meant the world. And I just want to say, you are incredible. You are the reason this show exists and keeps growing. I am so proud to be part of this community with you. That kind of commitment gets me excited every single day to keep fighting alongside you. So let's keep this energy going. Don't worry, you don't have to boycott this channel. We're here together, and we're never going to give in. Thanks for watching this video, and if you stuck around at the end, you can drop the blue heart in the comments, and until next time, I will see you soon.